What's actually really difficult is making a mass manufactured product that's reliable, that's beautiful, that's cheap to everyone. This is very difficult. This is a very difficult task. Somehow, Honda has nailed it with the 99 Civic, right? With which just the Civics in general. Here's a car that's just, it's a family car, but it's also a tuner car, and it's also pennies.
All right. Okay. So, hey guys, and welcome back to the KodaCast. This is a podcast where we document our journey with building Kodawari. Um, the guests we invite, the stories we tell, we hope to kind of share value in a way to help our audience build a mindset of growth. I think hopefully that will lead you guys into cultivating that into your life and eventually chasing your own passions and building and working towards a meaningful life. So today we have a very special guest, Lliam Ly. Will is someone that I grew up with. He was a good friend of my brother's, and we've always kind of had a mutual respect for each other as we've kind of made it uh, through the years. So, Will is currently an engineer at Lululemon, and he has his names on a couple of patents, and his perspective and the way he sees the world is something that I find very valuable. So, he is a guest that we've been wanting to have on the CodaCast for a long time, and yeah, we're really excited to have you here. Well, welcome.
Hey, thanks now. I That's an interesting introduction. You were talking to me just now. Sorry, guys. You were just talking to me just now about how I would like to be introduced.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting question. It's something I don't think about. Um, nowadays, I think people like to identify themselves with the work that they do. Like we get so entangled with the idea that the work that we do on a daily basis is who we are. And so people who are accountant always identify themselves as I'm an accountant, or I'm an engineer, or I'm a designer. But I feel like when I introduce myself to people, like those qualities um, rank really low in the list of how I identify with, right? So I think when I think of myself, if I were to introduce myself, I would say like, I'm a brother, I'm somebody's son, I'm somebody's girlfriend or someone's boyfriend. You're gonna edit that one out. And so yeah, I think I would say that I'm just a maker. Sometimes I don't get caught up with the idea that I'm an engineer. I've always been a guy who liked to make things, and somehow naturally I fell into a profession that allows me to make things, and I'm always grateful for that. I would ask you, since you've known me for so long now, I think it's such a privilege that we've seen each other grow over time. Um, how would you, removing what you just said, um, categorize me? Like, how would you describe me? Because you've known me for so long. I think the engineering part is something that happened later in life, but I think there's more to me than that.
Yeah, no, that's if if you, the way you spin that, I agree with you. I think you are so much more than just an engineer or someone who has his names on a couple pens. What I think I've respect most about you is the kind of brother you are to Andrew, and the kind of son you are to your mom. You're back visiting, and you've been just with your family. That's always been a priority for you, and I think you're a great friend. You've been a great friend to me. You've been a great friend to our circle. You're always um, helping us uh, through your through your talents as a designer, as a maker, right? Um, our beautiful logo would not be here if it wasn't for you, right? So something that we wear proudly on our chest, that we have painted beautifully on our wall because of your help, is because of your skills as a maker, and your capabilities as a maker. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember when you approached me for that sign, you're telling me the dimensions. And I was like, wow, this is a big sign. I actually measured the dimensions in my kitchen. So I had laid some tape down to kind of visually see how big this thing would be. And it was a bit intimidating, I'm not gonna lie, because I think it was what, like 200, it was like 18 feet or 20 feet. I was like, how am I gonna make this in Vancouver and then fold it so delicately without breaking it and get it back to you guys? But that was a super fun project. Um, yeah, that's interesting how you see me, to be honest. I wonder how much. So I got a chance just to meet you just now, Nick. Nick is the producer, guys. Um, so I wonder how much Nick knows about Now. And so Now is a guy I've known since, man, I think I met you when I was like 12. So I've known Dewey for a super long time. And I've seen Now progress through the years. And whenever I think of Now, I always think of like car parts, really cool cars. And I remember being like in school, broke, uh, always in class, and then Now would come by in in a really cool car, and I'm like, wow, how are you doing this? And then that's just the history of Now. So coming here and then kind of seeing what you're trying to build towards is really impressive to me. It's like you're trying to embrace your passion as a career path, and that's admirable in itself.
yeah, you know, I since you brought that up, and I don't want to make this all about me or go into it, but yeah, like we've grown up, and I've always kind of been someone who's like, if I want something, I'm gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
So my earliest memories were of just, I always really valued the relationships in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but when my parents went to work during summer vacation, I would spend the entire day cleaning and making sure that they came home to just like a really nice house, nice and clean. Make sure that I support them in that way. When my mom was cooking in the kitchen, I was always in the kitchen helping her as a sous chef, just like prepping all the ingredients, mixing everything, making sure that like she had help, and it just came very natural to me. And doing all those things have kind of really led me to who I am today. I love cooking. I enjoy cooking, and I love feeding my friends and taking care of people in that way. But when it comes to getting the things that I want in terms of whatever, I remember going to apply delivering newspapers at 13, making sure that I just had a job as soon as I possibly could so that I can buy Gundam toys for my brother. I would go to Toys R Us and buy gifts for my brother for Christmas and stuff like that. And I don't know what compelled me to do that, but I just had that in me. So yeah, I started working at a very young age and haven't stopped. So, these cars and all those car parts, it's been a byproduct of that.
Do you remember the time we both applied at Staples together? This is a little known fact.
Yeah, we applied at Staples by Sherway, and I think Dan was already working there, a friend of ours. And um, did I totally forgot about that story until you brought it up like not too long ago. But did we know that uh, you had we had applied, or did we kind of just run into each other?
No, so what actually happened is we didn't even know Dan worked there at the time. This is pre that. Um, what had happened is I had seen a job listing, and you had mentioned you were looking for a job.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, Staples is applying. And you're like, hey, let's go the next day. And what happened was your mom and dad came and picked us up because we lived like a block away from each other at the time. So your mom and dad drove us all the way to Sherway. We had our resume in hand, you know. This was such an exciting age. I was like 17. I think you were like 16. And then we interviewed with this really nice woman. And afterwards, we were unsure if we got the job. So I think we went to McDonald's just to grab a quick bite, and then we walked home all the way from Sherway. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember just being at that age. I was so timid. I was so nervous. You know, I'm pretty sure when the lady would ask me questions, like I can't even imagine what the kind of answers I gave her.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was just so shy, so just not comfortable with myself and what I had to offer. But there were, I think at that point I had applied for like Taco Bell and I got turned down, and a few other places too. But yeah, that's the
Yeah, I think those stories are always so interesting, right? Because I think when people meet you now, they see the finished product, you know? Like you're this dude now. But I think we've been both fortunate to see each other grow up over time, and like I've seen you work through the struggle and through these odd jobs. Like here's another one for you, Nick. Now was like the hardest working dude I ever seen at Tim Hortons. Do you remember that? I remember I would come hang out with your brother, and I would see you come home, and I was like, wow, this dude is just like really hardworking. And then, and it's just, gosh, just to reflect on those moments now, like I'm really happy that where you found yourself in life. Yeah. Sometimes it's really nice just to slow down and reminisce about those things, you know?
yeah, man. Tim Hortons was a great job. I I applied for it as soon as I was old enough. I think I turned like 16, or I was in grade 9 or 10 or something like that. But as soon as I was legally old enough to work a job,
Yeah.
I had applied at that Tim Hortons by Islington Station. And my dad used to drop me off there for work. Sometimes I would take the bus. But yeah, I was just so hungry, man. I was just relentless with how it worked. I learned so quick, and I was just on it. I was, you know, I almost remind myself a little bit of Steven, just like going ham. And my managers, they would always like talk to me in front of the rest of the team. They're like, look at how Now works. Like, you guys should be working like that. You know, like they gave me a raise within a couple months, and I had a great relationship with my manager there.
Yeah.
But that job didn't last too long. I think eventually I went over to work with Tony's parents when they opened up the restaurant. But yeah, it's I didn't realize that. I don't remember you and Dewey ever coming to. So I'm surprised that you still remember that part.
I remember a lot
our
of
past.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I think how you do anything is how you do everything. You know, and I think that's always an important thing to remember. It's like it says a lot about you. Like when you do the small things well, like the mundane things well, you know, people trust that you're gonna do the larger projects for them extremely well. You know, if you can be really nitpicky with like things that come off as not a priority for others, like people will really respect that, and I think it shows through the work at Kodawari. Yeah.
Yeah, we're it's this past year has definitely given myself and our team a really good opportunity to really assess ourselves as to where we're going and what we want to do. And I always talk about wanting to be better and and achieve, like I have such huge hopes and dreams for what Kodawari can be. Sometimes I get too ahead of myself, but you know, my team holds me accountable, and over the past little bit I've had to really look at myself and see and ask myself, am I doing the little things with the utmost care, and would I be proud of it? You know, so like we recently even had a discussion where we were like, what are our goals? What do we want to improve? How can we be a little bit better? And my goal personally was, hey man, I want to brush my teeth every night and be disciplined in that. I want
Hold on. This is a new thing for you?
to. Well, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, right? So I think I'm gonna label it as, I work so hard that at the end of the night I'm just exhausted. I'm just like, man, I just want to hit the bed. I want the sack. I don't want to be able to. I don't want to have to, you know, have the discipline to brush my teeth every night.
I see Sherry shaking her head right now.
Yeah, Sherry's been on my ass about that. So it's about progress, right?
Isn't it amazing after all these years, there's no invention that allows us to like automatically brush our teeth without going through the motions? I guess mouthwash is that kind of invention, but it's not a mechanical intervention.
Yeah, you
It needs to be something I can just put in my mouth and it's just like, it does all the work for me and then I pull it out.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick. you know, just like with cars, right? You can't just pressure wash it, even though you ceramic coat and everything. Like there still needs to be some mechanical agitation.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, just really focusing on how we can do the small things with pride and really be proud of it. So I'm proud of myself for refocusing on that. Over the weekend we cleaned up the house, and I was cleaning one of our pans, and I actually just focused on just cleaning the pan with a lot of care.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually present, and I just really enjoyed doing it well instead of rushing through it, instead of like trying to get all the chores done and move on to work stuff, or move on to like going out or doing this. But instead, just, you know what, I'm cleaning my cast iron pan, and I really want to do the best job that I can.
Yeah, I
Right
love
then.
that, man. I think when you take that approach to life, like treating these mundane tasks as like not just a thing you have to do, but like an enjoyable experience, it becomes meditative. So like for me, I hate to admit this because I feel like one day my wife will exploit it, but I love cleaning the bathroom. It's a really weird thing. You can even ask my brother, my mom. Like I used to always clean our bathroom at home, and even to this day, like I just love putting on some music, and you see the start where it's like super dirty, and then you get to clean it, and you actually see like a physical change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird quirk of mine. I hope she never listens to this because she's gonna make me clean the podcast, the bathroom.
Whoever she is, don't worry. We're gonna save this as we'll save this to show her one day. But yeah, man, that's, I think, even with what we do here at Kodawari at detailing, right? Like we're some of us just enjoy the process of taking something dirty and getting it to like a clean state.
Yeah.
And like, not all of us are like that, but if you are like that, like if you can find more opportunities in your life where you can kind of enjoy that process, that's the sweet spot, man. And that's what we're trying to do with everyone on our team is trying to find them, put them in a role where they just, it doesn't seem like work to them, but to other people it does seem like work. But you are uniquely yourself, and you just got to figure out what you like and what you enjoy, and trying to find a way to make money through that.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, I totally resonates with me, and I'm thinking just now, when you meet people, it's like the first 30 seconds tells you so much about them. I feel like, and when I met Dave just now, he was sitting on the ground, PPFing something like in an awkward position, with a big smile on his face, and that's like an impression that like just it sticks with me. It's like, here's a dude just by himself, just doing what he loves, and I love seeing that. It inspires me too.
yeah. Dave has definitely inspired me in many ways, right? He's he's reminded me what it means to put some care and thought into planning out what you want to do and doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that Dave touches, I don't have to second guess. I know that he thought it through, and he tries his best to do it with just all his attention, and and not have to worry about redoing it afterwards, right? So he reminds me a lot of my dad in that way.
That's cool. You know, sorry. I think when I saw Dave too, he kind of reminded me. So you'll know this. Sherry will probably know this, but you know, when I was super young, I had that crazy idea of, or actually, I was really into old school bikes, like the vintage bikes, and I loved everything about them. I loved the mechanical aspect of them. I loved the aesthetics of a bike. You know, it's such a simple idea, and so I was repairing all these bikes. And one of my favorite things to do when I was fixing bikes for people was like just cleaning it and waxing at the end, you know? And seeing Dave just now really brought back flashbacks. Like, I remember just sitting in the backyard, like somebody's bike completely taken apart, and I would just be like meticulously just cleaning like certain components, um, uh, re-greasing everything, putting it back together. There's like a simplicity to that, you know. And once you get mastery of something, your brain's almost on autopilot, and it becomes like a meditative process. To this day, I always think about that, and something I really loved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned TVB, because I think that was like, I always knew you were a really smart guy, just because I my brother would always be like, because it was always my brother, yourself, and Nick, and then Dewey would always be like, yeah, Will and Nick, they're honor students, man. Like they kill it in school. So I was like, yeah, like, um, you guys, I always kind of saw you guys as like the older guys, super smart. And I think it was only until I saw what you had done with TVB as a little side hustle, building out the website, coding everything yourself back when it was not as easy as it is today. Uh, when I saw that, I was like, this guy's got it, man. I'm like, he's got that X factor. He's got that talent in design, in aesthetics, whatever it is, that he was able to create something really, really cool. When I saw that website back then, I was like, you made this? Like, even when we went on it recently, I was like, wow, it still looks great. And how long ago was that? That was
Like 2008, 2009.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Like
yeah,
almost 11 years. Well, I mean, that uh that makes me happy to hear. I mean, I love hearing stuff like that. I I'm almost shy to hear that you think I'm smart, you know. And the reason why I say that, I think people often uh, attribute this quality to people who are actually just hardworking. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything innately different about me. Like, I don't think I process information differently from people. I don't think I'm more intelligent than anyone. I just think there's a persistence to me. Like, I've always worked really hard. And with TVB, um, what you don't see is you see the final product, right? So some people know me as a TVB, but what you don't realize is like I locked myself in a room for like 2 months,
yeah,
just trying to figure out how to do everything. And it's that attention to detail, it's that persistence that resulted in a product that looked like I was super talented.
yeah.
But I was just really interested in it, and I have like a strong attention span. I think that's maybe the one thing I would say that okay, I got lucky with. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, um, your attention span has led you down a path um, that has been different from just our group of friends growing up, and I've always appreciated that, right? So I wanna, I want you to,
But you have those same qualities too now. Like, so whenever I think of you, I think of here's a dude who's extremely hardworking and persistent. You know, regardless of what task is at hand. If he's working at Tim Hortons, Coca-Cola, some meat shop, or Kodawari, you're always, you have your eye on the prize and you treat the task at hand with respect. And I think that's a really important thing for me.
Yeah, I think I've been lucky enough to been raised by parents that kind of instilled that in me. Some of it's probably um, from within as well. But yeah, thanks, man. It means a lot coming from you.
But it's interesting. Maybe this is another story I can tell Nick and the rest of your audience. But there's a point in time where there's a point in time when I thought of you, I was like, this guy can go down. He's at a junction in his life. He can go down this party boy route, or he can go down this very professional route. And I was like, I wasn't really sure which route you're gonna go, man. If I'm being honest with you, but I want to say that, one thing that's common is that you've always been very accommodating of others. So seeing this whole operation, I understand it. You've been able to kind of combine both personality traits and then take the best of both and leave what you don't need.
Yeah. I can't imagine what you used to think of us, because we got to our 20s and we just held, like, I always worked a lot, so on the weekends we always wanted to enjoy and have fun and party. And when my parents whenever they left for Vietnam or left out of town, boom, there was a huge party at the house. Cooking, I loved cooking for people, and just making sure people had a good time, right? So um, it's funny how the relationships have always been important in my life, and I think that's something that I always gravitate towards too, is taking care of people and making sure that everyone's good and all that, right? Sorry, we're gonna jump into a quick break. All right, we are back from the break.
Yeah. So what just happened now? So while I was talking to Nau and I was listening to him talk, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, man, I'm like really laid back in this chair. And so what we went and did is got stools because they're less comfortable and they force you kind of to lean forward.
Yeah.
And I'd prefer to talk like that. Yeah. It's a little bit
feel?
more engaging.
How do you feel now?
I feel a little bit more awake. I was too loungy before.
Yeah, you know why those chairs are so loungy?
They're comfortable.
Because our friggin' editors set them up like that, right?
Yeah.
So our content creator team, Alan and Nick, they're laid back guys. They're super chill.
You gotta put cameras on these guys. I bet they're taking naps in these chairs.
No, we call it the dungeon because their lights are always off in there. So maybe you're onto something. I gotta. But anyways, yeah, though we had a little bit of a pause at a weird point, but we were kind of talking about like common themes that came back up, and it reminded me of a quote that I saw on Instagram that Cindy posted, that really made me think, and it goes as this. Everyone fails at being who they're supposed to be. A measure of a person is how well they succeed at being who they are. So I think with Kodawari, and all the stories that we've listened and shared with today, there are some common themes that I think just make me who I am. That's what people know me for. When I talk to you and you're like, no, you've always been someone who networks really well. You've always been someone who knows a lot of people and who makes friends very easily. And I think that comes very natural to me. I think that's something that I think some of it comes from my parents, but some of it, yeah, is natural because sometimes I talk to my sister and she's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Tien.
She's an introvert, right?
Yeah. I'm always like, oh man, Tien, like I can't wait to go visit my cousins in Germany and meet them because I've never met them before. And she's like, looks at me with this weird look and she's just like, wow, you're very different from me because I have no desire to meet anyone. I'd be happy just at home with my family. I don't need to make friends. And it's funny. It's funny how different we are. But yeah, it's with Kodawari. I'm trying to find who I am and those strengths of mine, and really trying to focus and double down on them, and hopefully, help my team find their strengths and put them in a role that allows for them to really excel too.
Yeah, that's cool because when you're telling me that story of Tien, like it really resonates with me. So I think I'm an ambivert. There's days where I'm definitely an introvert, and there's days where I can just turn it on and be an extrovert. The memory I'm thinking of right now is the one time I swung by the shop, and I was waiting for you because I wanted to talk to you about some stuff, but you were getting your haircut, and then I ran into Sherry, and Sherry was like, "Hey, my sister and some other guys are in there. You want to come say hi right now?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay. I'll just sit in the car." and I saw this look on your face, like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just tired today. Like, I didn't feel like talking." But I always appreciate that you guys kind of understood that about me. Like there's some days where I'm just my social meter is just empty, and I'm not interested in talking.
Yeah.
But then the other days I just love talking.
Yeah, you have those quirks with you for sure.
Yeah. As you know, I did a lot of time in school, right?
Yeah.
So first exploration was engineering. Did 1 year in that. Got distracted. Then I explored actuarial for 4 years, actuarial sciences for 4 years. Only to come to this conclusion that I think I'm more of a maker. And I went back and I finished off the engineering degree.
Yeah.
So I think it was just on the cusp of me leaving, finishing actuarial science, and then starting up my engineering degree again. Yeah, so I was like midway. I would say midway.
Yeah. And you're someone that always is very thoughtful with before you make a decision. Like you take in so many angles, right? So I want you to walk through when you finish engineering, the decision to move out to Vancouver. What was that? What were those days, months, whatever, how long it took you to take that internship at Lulu? What was that like?
So let me answer that with this idea that's like really prevalent in my head right now. So it'd be in a weird way, it'd be foolish to say that my life has gone as I've planned. Even stumbling upon these weird ideas and like the things I've made, it's all been almost like luck of the draw or probability. It's like hard work meets probability. The decision of moving to Vancouver was almost like thrusted upon me. So I remember how I was deciding between these two opportunities. One opportunity seemed predictable. Like it was going to be me living in Toronto. It was probably going to end up being like a unionized job. I could see how my future would transition that way. And then with the offer, with the job description I got with the research team, it was almost so vague that it left so much to the imagination. And I say that's probabilities because I think the people discovering some of the projects I've done online, and then also meeting the right interviewer, being in the right mindset, and then them needing an individual who kind of fit that role feels like luck. I would say the decision process, though, like the topical answer would be that I was trying to make a decision that I knew what the future would be if I stayed here in Toronto. I didn't know what it would be like if I moved to Vancouver, but I knew that the original contract I had signed was only for 10 months. And if I didn't enjoy the experience, I could just come back here. but I knew it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know, these are the opportunities that come. If you don't take them, you're gonna think about them for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people coming out of their schooling, or even you get those options presented to you, right? And it's how do you navigate in a way where you you don't regret it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you feel like you missed. You take that leap of faith. Uh, there's a lot of people saying that, when you're at a hospice and you talk to a lot of people who are on their deathbed, they a lot of them hold a lot of regret,
Mm-hmm.
as to wishing they had done things, wishing they had taken the chance or had the courage to do this and that. So it sounds like you did take that leap of faith, and you tried to go out there on your own to figure it out, and really see what you can make of yourself with a very, very big company.
Yeah, I remember thinking actually. So I remember thinking in my head, like just weighing the pros and the cons. So the emotional side of me was thinking, well, I'm gonna leave my whole social circle behind. You know, I don't think we, I don't think we realize the importance of like just having a really close a group of friends. Um, and we take it for granted. You know, when you're in the moment, you actually don't really realize it. It's only when you move away that you realize, man, this guy was such a good friend to me. You know, and it's taken time for me to realize all the sacrifices my friends have made in my absence. You know, like I think of the relationships that the relationships that I've left behind, but also the effort that we still put in to maintain it, and I'm always thankful for that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to invest in these relationships. Um, you're 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 investing energy, time, a lot of things some things you can't get back. So it's definitely uh, hard to step away from that,
Yeah.
especially when you grew up around these people, and you've built that solid circle, because they're the ones that help keep you grounded. They're the ones that help, um, get you to where you are, right?
Yeah, that's totally true. You know, these are the people who believed in you before you were you. You know, they saw something in you, and they supported you. Like I always think of this memory as, you know, I was like really never home. I was always like in class or just working. But you were always gracious enough to always invite me out to your parties. And I would turn it down like probably 80% of the time because like, dude, I'm busy. Like I gotta study or I gotta work. But you always just messaging me like, hey, I'm throwing this jam this weekend. You gotta come. And I would come once in a while, and I'd be like, wow, these guys are crazy. Um, but you realize that, you know, you realize that in hindsight. There's a there's a mutual respect. There's a love, and there's a like a shared story there that I love.
Yeah, man, because we grew up on Browns Line in that area, and we were like the only two Asian families. We were just surrounded by, just Canadians and white people, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that, I always I was always reminded of, like, what, if I'm doing stuff, I got to make sure that, you know Dewey's important to me. Will's a good friend of Dewey's. I want to make sure that I invite him out,
Mm-hmm.
if we're ever doing anything, because I think we share a lot in common. In fact, that, our parents are immigrants, and we're first generation. Wait, they're first generation,
Yeah.
right? We're second generation.
Yeah, so we're second
Yeah,
generation. I
second
think that's how it
generation,
works.
living in Canada, and as Asians, we definitely are exposed to similar experiences, just our cultural differences, and being shy, being always kind of like reserved. That's something that we definitely do share in common.
Yeah, like a community always gathers around a shared struggle, right? And so I remember just seeing Dewey, like, yo, you're Vietnamese, I'm Vietnamese, yo, we should hang. We need to stick together.
Like, you know, we've had discussions in the past where you said, you know, I was bullied a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I was always very timid, and I didn't make friends really well. And you've grown into someone who I see now who is very confident in his where he is in the world. You know,
Yeah.
confident in what you bring to the table. Confident in when you meet new people, you don't have to try and impress anyone. You're very grounded in what you've become. And what do you attribute like that growth to? Like how like, you know, people see me as a business owner, they see me as the face of Kodawari, and they it's easy for them to think I've always been like this. But you remember when I was, you know, Sherry remembers the now of 20 years old that was, you know, trembling when we first kissed, or like throwing out Hail Marys that I loved her, and like, you know, just being super awkward and shy and all that, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much of that, how much of your journey out to BC on your own has really helped forge that confidence in you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I think, regardless of the time frame or the age, I've always been a relatively outspoken individual, and so I come off sometimes brash. But I feel like the people who know me understand, like, he's just saying stuff to process information, and sometimes I'm not actually interested in your reaction. I just need to say it, and then it computes in my head. Um, the reason why I mentioned that is, I think the neighborhood we grew up in was it felt somewhat segregated, you know, and so naturally, you get into altercations with people as a child or as a young teen, because like you're significantly different from your peers. Like everyone around you is different, and you're like this like one Asian dude in like a full classroom of non-Asians or even non-ethnic people, right? For me, it was important to understand that you can't go through life being jaded by an experience. You know, things happen, and you just kind of let it go. What I would say, how I would say BC or Vancouver has changed me is, here's an interesting thought. You know, I think when I moved to Vancouver, I moved with nothing, so pretty much just a backpack. I knew no one there, and I had just accepted an offer. Some things you don't think about is, in Toronto, if I get really drunk one night, I can just call one of my buddies like, "Yo, can you pick me up?" You don't have that support network when you kind of transition to a new area. You don't know anyone, and so I remember one night, I was coming back from like a work party, may have gotten too tipsy, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna call Ahmed." But then it clicked. Like it was a moment of realization that Ahmed's not here. Like I have no one here. And it's those moments that change you. You know, that makes you really evaluate friendships and the people around you. It's something you don't think about on a daily basis. You take it for granted, but when you experience it, it's a really different feeling. Yeah.
Would you say you've appreciated like these relationships more now that you've been out there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I I value them a lot more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's that'll do it. If stepping away from all that and really uh, putting yourself outside that circle makes you really appreciate um, how important having that social circle or having those relationships in your life.
Yeah, it's just having the people that should you need help or you can rely on, like they're there, you know. Because I think in terms of friendships, I think I got super lucky growing up. You know, I've always been around people who are just like really nice and really kind and really embracing. You don't realize that that doesn't always exist for everyone. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've been pretty lucky with um, the parents we've been raised with by, and then also the people that we grew up by. But yeah, let's jump into a break.
Okay, cool.
And we are back. Yeah, we were kind of just talking about um, our team and being a business owner and all that. And you know, you've been a big part of mentoring me with your experiences, with your perspective, and I want to get into what you perceive or what you think makes a great leader. You know, you've been at Lululemon for how many years now? I'm sure you've had
Approaching
to,
like 5 or 6, yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you've had relationships with people, um, either as leader yourself or people leading your team. What do you think makes a great leader?
That's a good, interesting question. So I've been really fortunate with the people. I've been really fortunate with having like really great directors and mentors. And there's a reoccurring theme that I can think of off the top of my head, and it's the constant belief in me, you know. So I'm a guy who's kind of rough around the edges, you know. I speak with some slang sometimes. I forget that I'm in a corporate setting. I may let out a yo once in a while. But what I've always appreciated is that the people above me, the powers that be, can respect me for who I am. So they evaluate me on the content of the work, you know, the quality, rather than like the superficial aspects. And I think you're seeing that nowadays with a lot of these startups, these newer companies where they allow the employees to grow into who they are. Like, you don't have to fit a mold. You don't have to come to work in a suit and tie. You know, there's no need to put on an illusion of who you are. You can be yourself. If you have a neck tat, that's cool. You know, if you have a full sleeve, that's cool. If you, like me, wear a tracksuit to work, that's also cool. They fully embrace the individual's eccentricism. You know, and I think as a leader, you don't want to remove the interesting quirks of an individual, because that's what uniquely makes them them. That's when they're doing a project, they can add their je ne sais quoi, their special sauce to the idea, you know, and kind of transform it into something that hasn't been seen before. But then also as a leader, you have to see their weaknesses and be able to encourage them in a direction that you may need them to grow as well. I'm thinking of my first director, who was very of the belief of like fail fast and learn quickly. This guy would always throw me in these weird meetings. Like, I remember my first 2-3 weeks there, I was an intern, and he threw me in all these like big meetings, and he was like, "Oh, can you just explain this idea?" And like me being me, I was like just really rough and just shooting from the hip. And I remember crashing and burning a lot. I remember walking out of meetings just like, oh my God, everyone thinks I'm an idiot, you know? And sometimes I just felt so embarrassed. And I was like, why is this guy like doing this to me? Like, I feel like he's like setting me up for failure. And it's only in hindsight I realized that's what he was doing. It's like a guy who, like, on paper, I seem like a dude who has always done things well and like always had things go my way. and maybe I haven't tasted failure in life, and I don't know how to react when I get failure. And so his way of, I guess, introducing me to that, and not being scared and not being shy about what the corporate world looks like, is have this dude fail fast. He's gonna taste failure, and he's gonna know it feels awkward, but you're gonna grow from that, and you're gonna embrace the idea that it's okay to fail. And so I think of him a lot as a leader. Yeah.
Yeah, that that sounds like he taught you some very valuable lessons. I think getting acquainted and getting and being comfortable with knowing that failure is just part of the process. And sometimes you just gotta shoot from the hip. Sometimes you're not always gonna be ready, but you just have to take that, at least that one step forward, and be open to failing. And that's something that I've really learned through the years, well, the past 2 years of Kodawari. You know, we weren't ready to renovate a space like this, made a lot of mistakes. I haven't been ready to lead a team this big. Made a lot of mistakes, continue to make a lot of mistakes, but having the courage to still take that step forward and still believe in a vision of where this is leading to is really important. And yeah, having, like, you know, reminding my team and reminding those around me that sometimes you're not ready, but you just got to do it. And putting them in a position where, in the right mindset of approaching things like that. Because, you know, we got a car show coming up. We've done one car show, and we've never done it as a team before. And, you know, we definitely learned a lot from a few things that we messed up. We have another show, another meet coming up tomorrow, and we're trying to make bubble tea. We're gonna try and do Japadogs, and this is very new to us, and we might fall flat on our faces. But it's important to continue to encourage each other to try new things, because if we continue to keep doing that, we're gonna fail fast and learn quickly what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. The last piece I would say is to, like, if you trust your team and you love your team, give them the freedom to operate, the freedom of autonomy, and let them just create, you know? I think art is so subjective, you know, and I see this a lot where, you know, you do something and you pass it off and people critique it, and they try to change your vision, you know? There is no right or wrong with art. And I think, especially at Kodawari, you guys are doing a lot of content creation, you know. It's hard to say what is right and what is wrong. You have your team, give them the reins, give them the keys to exercise their wildest imagination. So if they want to cut some crazy video, let them do it, you know. Let's see where this idea goes. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Nick, do I give you guys the rein to do your shit, or what?
Yeah. He does. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm always, you know, like I'm always looking at ways to help my team grow.
Yeah.
And be the best leader that I can for them. And at the same time, like you said, looking at their weaknesses and making sure that they're aware of it. They don't have to spend all their time on their weaknesses, you know, focus their energies on their strengths, and encourage them to be creative and to try new things, but at the same time let them know that, you know, these are areas that you have to be aware of.
Yeah.
And they do that for me as well.
Yeah.
You know, they tell me, hey, no, you said you were gonna do this, you didn't do it. You know, and that's.
I'm actually not good at doing that with you.
with what?
Whenever you say like, I'm gonna get this to you, I'm like, now seems busy. I'm not gonna bother.
yeah, and that's where I need to grow.
Yeah.
Is to follow through with, not saying yes to everything, and then disappointing a lot of people, but actually really thinking about taking a step to pause and be like, okay, you know what? If I'm gonna say I'm gonna do this, I gotta do it.
Yeah, that's such a hard thing to learn, right? Saying no to things. I remember, gosh, when you guys were like, "Can you do the website for Kodawari?" And I was like, I instinctually just said yes because it's you, like, and it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But right after I said yes and I hung up the phone, I was like, "Fuck, I hate websites. I don't want to touch websites anymore." I had this moment of like, "Why did I say yes to this?" But you gotta be a man of your word. If you say you're gonna do something, you gotta crank it out.
Yeah. Like people know me for my strengths of valuing relationships and doing and focusing on that, but I see it as like a double-edged sword sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Is like you overcommit. You want to make everyone happy, right? You're trying to please everyone, and then in turn you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So it's never black or white. It's always kind of like,
it's a delicate dance.
Yeah, and I'm always presented with these options every single day, and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate it appropriately so that I get the right things done.
Yeah.
And I do things for the people that matter in my life. But yeah, it's I think being in a team environment, you have to really check yourself sometimes, and you're gonna fail a lot because you're gonna disappoint the people around you. And I think what I've come to try and encourage my team and the relationships in my life is that, hey, you know what? I'm not expecting perfection from this relationship. I want everyone on my team to understand that we're on this journey together. It may be 6 months, it may be a year, but we're doing it together, and we want to hold each other accountable for accepting the flaws and reminding each other of like, okay, like you need to improve here, you need to do that there, but we're working together to try and be better together through this journey, through this process.
That's a great philosophy, man.
Because if like you have that expectation of, oh, you know what, they got to be perfect or they're going to be with us together, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment and just building resentment and all that, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah,
I love that.
That's something that I try to remind myself, because it's a daily thing, because your ego comes up every single day, and it's like, you know, the world should revolve around me.
That's my jam right there.
Is that our
It's a random phone.
Good morning, Kodawari Collective.
Oh, that's a work phone.
Oh, it's okay.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Going into the corporate environment,
Yeah.
you know, your first time, how long did it take you to like actually adapt into that environment? Because I know it's very different from a startup. You know what I mean? Like culture and whatnot. Yeah, tell me. I'm curious if that's all right.
Yeah, no.
If I could ask that question.
Yeah. Is it still recording?
Yeah, it's still going.
Gosh, I love that question. some of my friends there would probably say like, Liam, they know me as Liam there. They go, Liam really tried to be a corporate dude at the starting. Like, I was faking the funk, you know. I was wearing jeans and trying to look professional and whatnot. Somewhere along the lines, I realized that I'm fortunate enough to work in a company that's not a legacy company. It's like a pretty newer company, you know. It's very hip. People are very understanding there. And then it came to this conclusion. It was easier for me to just be myself and have people kind of like understand my quirks than it was for me to put on this facade of like, hey, I'm a dude of like, I speak properly and say all the typical corporate jargon, you know. So in a way, I'm still me. I get to still be me there. But I also understand the business aspects of things. So it's about really just balancing when the familiarity of your coworkers, but then also, you know, understanding that if you're meeting some vendors that are new, you have to put a conscious effort to still be yourself, but, you know, clean up a bit. Yeah. That's kind of a weird advice, I would say, but it's worked for me.
Right, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it definitely felt weird for the first, I'd say like first 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, it took me a while
Yeah.
to really just find my groove, find my lane, and just feel that everyone was accepting enough and they understood me enough that I could fully be myself there. Yeah.
because probably at the beginning you were like trying to fit the mold of
What I assumed that life would look like, you know.
Mhm.
So it was like, I just remember, I remember my first day I was thinking, don't kiss your teeth at anybody. Don't kiss your teeth at anybody. Don't be a Toronto man's around these people, you know. It's hard and it's weird, but I think open-minded people realize that talent comes in all flavors. You know, you're gonna get some eccentricism with certain individuals. Doesn't mean that this means they're slightly different, but doesn't mean they're worse or anything like that. It's just a quality, a trait that comes with them. Yeah.
Do you were you encouraged to be yourself in that environment, or do you feel like your work just spoke for itself and then that allowed you to be like, you know what, I know what I bring to the table, so I'm not gonna pretend to be someone I'm not, because the work speaks for itself?
Yeah, good question. I think the work speaks for itself. Like, proof is always in the pudding. But I actually remember this one conversation. I was sitting with a director, and my brother had just sent me a brand new tracksuit, a brand new red tracksuit, some hot boy stuff, you know? And I loved it a lot, so I wore it to work. Just like, whatever, you know? It was a short day, it was like a half day or something. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wear this, I'm gonna go hang out with some friends after, so I don't need to look a certain way. And then I think I went to go eat lunch with a director, and he had given me like almost like a vote of confidence. He's saying like, oh, Liam, like, I love seeing this side of you. You know, just be you. And I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. And I loved it, yeah. It sticks with me to this day.
That's cool. That's cool that he said that.
Yeah.
And just like,
because what actually happened 2 months prior to that, I was at a vendor in the States. And during the Uber ride, it was Chicago. During the Uber ride, I was just like jamming with this Uber guy, just like chit-chatting him up. He was like this kind of like urban dude. And I was like, hey, well, what's like the club scene here? And, you know, just kind of speaking more like a Toronto guy, like a little bit more slanged up. And then my director was in the back of the car. So he's like, oh, when he got out of the car, he's like, whoa, I've never seen that side of you. Like, I didn't realize like you had that. And I think that kind of planted the seed of him, like him realizing that I was kind of putting on a front at work. And then when he said that, maybe a month later when we were eating lunch, I really loved it. I was like, oh, this is a vote of confidence in my direction.
like that's that's something that we've those kind of treading the waters of authenticity is definitely something that we've been trying to figure out as a brand, as Kodawari. What do you think is like, what do you value when you see a company try and find themselves, like when you see a group of people try to put out creative content, in a world of YouTubers and Instagram influencers, and things that just really are effective? What do you feel about how brands and startups or even individual content creators approach that that scenario?
I wouldn't get too fixated on creating a persona. Yeah, I think that would be my advice. And the reason why I say something like that is because I think, like whenever I watch YouTube channels, I feel like sometimes, maybe it's just them, but a lot of people are putting on a persona. What always captures my attention, what always intrigues me is when I notice people having fun. It could be any content, like it could be some dude cooking. It could be someone's car channel. It could be someone's photography channel. But having fun is like this like common denominator with everyone in society. When you see someone having fun, it's like, yo, I want to join them too. Yeah, what are these guys doing? I think that's the most important thing. Have fun. And when you have fun, people will feel it and they'll gravitate towards you.
After viewing our content, do we have a lot of fun here, or?
I see Nick shaking his head.
Playing with die-cast cars. We're vlogging. We're going out to Vancouver, and
I think you guys have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Is there such thing as having too much fun?
Yeah, once it starts interfering with your work. But you can never have too much fun, let's be honest. Life is short. You gotta live it with a bang.
So, we've had discussions of you being a maker. You've always been someone who has kind of always seen cars as just an A to B mode of transportation. And as you've worked with us, you've been exposed to a little bit more of car culture and what it means, what these cars really mean to us and why we're so passionate about it. Has that changed with your experiences with your FRS and your views on the whole automotive car culture thing?
Yeah, so it has. So I'm thinking of this memory I have, right? So yes, I would say that I've always appreciated the aesthetics of a car. Like sometimes you can look at a car and be like, oh, that's a nice looking car. You may not know much about it, but something about the lines speak to you. However, I'm also aware of the expense that a car brings. So I remember when we were younger, we were playing poker with these old dudes. There was an individual who was extremely well off. He actually owned an auto shop. And, in between downtime during poker, I would just like talk to him, ask him about how he fell into his profession, any wisdom he can impart on me. I think I was 21 at the time, 22. And I remember him strictly telling me that in your youth, treat a car like a utility, like it should be just A to B, and always keep your expenses low so you can enjoy your life later on. And then he went on to say something like, work while your hair is black. Like you've got two legs now. It's hard to save money when you have a family, when you have these other obligations to pay. You have an opportunity now, you're in your youth, you can take the bus, you know, you can walk, you can cycle. I'm actually wondering if you were thinking, like, I'm surprised Will didn't bike to the shop. But I remember him imparting this idea in my head. He had said something about, like, keep cars to like 2% of your net worth. It was strange that it stuck with me, you know. And so for the longest time, I really lived by that philosophy. I took the bus everywhere. I biked everywhere. I cycled everywhere. These legs are like two Jay-Z's. They just keep going, you know. They're super strong. Sometime recently, I guess, I'm fortunate enough now to kind of be able to enjoy some of your influences. You know, I grew up seeing all you guys, you hot boys in your cars, and I would say that has rubbed off on me. I bought that Civic first, right? So my first car, I would say, was my first real car. Not like my mom's hoopty that I was driving around, but my first real car was when I was like 31. And I had always been very sentimental about the 99 Civic because my buddy Ahmed drove that since he was like 16. You know, I was always impressed by how reliable that car was. Like, we would drive it to camping and it had like 500,000 kilometers on it. It was running strong, no problems. It just kept going, you know? And so, like, I always felt very sentimental to that car, and I love the fact that when they had engineered the car, it was engineered almost like to perfection. It was made to last. It was a car that was made for affordable for the consumer. But then, in a weird way, it had a life of its own where it became a hobbyist car too. Like, if you think about it nowadays, like, people are so attracted to these high-end luxury cars, right? But in my head, it's very easy to make one-off cars. It's like, it's very easy to make custom components and make like 10 a short run of a product. What's actually really difficult is making a mass manufactured product that's reliable, that's beautiful, that's cheap to everyone. This is very difficult. This is a very difficult task. Somehow, Honda has nailed it with the 99 Civic, right? Which just the Civics in general. Here's a car that's just, you know, it's a family car, but it's also a tuner car. And it's also pennies. And what I was so impressed by that car is when I bought it, I stripped it out because I hadn't realized the carpet in the back was wet. And so I was trying to figure out what was causing it to leak. And this was my first time playing with the car. And I was actually playing it in my work parking lot. So after work, my coworkers were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just fixing my car." And so I took out all the seats, I stripped out all the carpet. And it was, for the first time doing something like that, I found it extremely easy to take apart that car. I was like really amazed by, they designed it to be repaired, you know? Ultimately, I figured out it was like a drain plug. So apparently, I forgot the technical name for it, but under the seat, the driver's seat, the passenger seat, and even in the back, there's these drain ports. And I remember reading that the drain ports exist there because when they dip the cars for corrosion and stuff like that, it allows, I guess, some of the paint or some of the leftover agents to pour out to those holes. And at the end of that, they cover it with a metal circle and some epoxy. When I had pulled all the carpet out, I noticed that the epoxy was extremely cracked. And so I was like, okay, so that's where the water's coming in. The main takeaway there is like, wow, what a beautifully designed car, you know? Affordable, relevant to so many different people. And even to this day, like, such a reliable, such a memorable car. And I had that car for a solid year. And then COVID broke out. So once COVID broke out, I got really bored and I was just driving around Vancouver, just exploring the city, you know? I was driving in the mountains a lot, and I was driving these back roads. So Vancouver has these really beautiful roads that I think every car enthusiast should at least rip around in. And I remember taking one turn pretty hard with my buddy, because my buddy's a car enthusiast as well. And the car was like rolling so much, and I was like, you know what, it'd be nice if I had coilovers on this car. But I was thinking, like, gosh, if I buy I think I asked you and Alan, how much do coilovers cost? And I think Alan had said something around like $1,000 or something. And I was like, that's half the car. Like, that's not worth modding out this car. So I started down this route of looking at what are the cars in my past that caught my attention. And so Miatas have caught my attention in the past. CRXs have caught my attention. I love those two-door nimble cars. And then the FRS, always, whenever I see it on the street, I was like, oh, this is a cool looking car. It took me a while though. So I was very diligent in finding a car that was not dinged up. So Vancouver has a lot of hot boys. These dudes like to drift these cars. And so I think I must have looked at 20 BRZs, FRSs, 86s, and most of them had like damage on them, or they were kind of repaired, or like what is it called to have that claim on your claim on Carfax?
Salvage.
Pardon?
Salvage title.
Yeah, like a salvage title, rebuilt or salvage titles.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get that.
Yeah.
So I kept looking, and then ultimately I found the color and the car that I wanted in like great condition, low mileage. And I miss it right now. I'm thinking about it right now. It's just sitting in a driveway somewhere in Vancouver.
Because you've been booting around in a rental, right?
Yeah, you know what? So what I've kind of learned is that cars do feel different. You know, like I feel like your audience is gonna laugh at me, but it's so true. Like booting around in my FRS, the car just feels stiff, and it feels very enjoyable to ride. I hear the noises, you know. I feel the speed, even though I'm going like 60. I guess there's no insulation. It feels fast. You know, there's an illusion. There's a visceral reaction you get from driving a car like that. Unfortunately, sorry to anyone who's a Ford Fusion fan, that car is quite boring to drive. There's no feedback. The steering wheel is so light. It's very electrical and floaty. You know, they've done a great job with sound dampening. Like I was driving relatively fast, and I looked down. I was like, whoa, I didn't realize how fast I was going. But there's no feel. There's no life to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see you experience it and get a taste of what it means to try these different flavors in the automotive world, going from the Civic to your FRS, and now, you know, the FRS is it a car that you look forward to getting into?
Absolutely.
And commuting, and it's no longer a commute anymore. It's an experience. Would you say when you're?
Yeah, I think. So I actually find myself shocked admitting that for the longest time I was like, a car is just a utility. You know, it's something that gets me A to B. Don't really care how it looks. I'm not really a fancy guy. I prefer, if I had to choose, a fun car over a fancy one. But I find myself like, if I'm driving home from something, I'll take the long route now. You know, I'll take the more scenic route. I'll do the more windy roads. Yeah, you know, it's definitely changed me for sure in that regard. I think it's a perfect first sports car for anyone getting into cars. And the reason I say that is because it's reliable. So if cost is a problem, then you don't have to worry about that. And also, the car feels so well balanced, and like it has, you just feel confident driving it. And like I don't feel like I'm gonna crash ever. You know, even though I rip it kind of hard sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is it's not powerful enough that I would do something stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I got into some of the newer powerful cars, like I'd be in a ditch somewhere within a week.
And that's the thing with these cars, and what people who appreciate the experience of driving these cars is the communication. Does it feel like an extension of your arms and feet? you know, when the rear tires lose traction or the front tires lose traction, does the car communicate that to you so that you know what's going on, so that you can adjust your input according to that? So just like with, if you're a gamer, you know, we both play games. um, when you're playing an FPS, you want a monitor that has a low ms. So it's very 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 responsive to like displaying exactly what's going on, so that you can put your, you know, gauge your inputs with that aim and all that, right? You want a mouse that has like very high responsiveness, right? So to put that analogy over into cars, like for a car, and when you're driving, you want a car that communicates to you. You don't want it to kind of just, oh, by the way, now I'm doing this, but by the time you realize it, it's too late. And oh, certain cars, there's going to be less sound deadening, so that you can hear certain things, so that it's all part of the experience.
Yeah, that's such a great point. You know, and as an individual who started driving later in life, you know, it's interesting because I guess I'm a little bit older. I can kind of appreciate these like subtle nuances now. It's something I don't think I would have appreciated had I gotten early in life. You know, like if my mom had given me a car or something, like I would just, okay, it's cool, it's free. But you know, I look forward to driving it. To be honest, like every time in the winter, Vancouver doesn't get that cold, but getting into that car, I'm like, wow, I have heat. instead of just like waiting at the bus and my hands are frozen, you know, this in itself is just like, it makes me happy. Yeah, it's the little things, man.
Yeah, so I was so happy to see you enjoying, you know, the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
And you know, like Will's always kind of been this guy that for the longest time he was like making coffee so ghetto and just like you know, like just eating like the most basic bland food. And because you had this mindset of like, you know, I'm working towards something. I'm working towards a future that I can enjoy these things later. And to finally see you starting to enjoy, like even with your, you know, you're a maker, you started making your YouTube page, when you started enjoying takeout, enjoying all the foods that you weren't able to enjoy in your 20s, like that seeing you do that made me so happy, because I was like, yes, he's eating he's eating good, he's got a sick car, you know, like he's actually got some furniture in his studio now. Before it was just literally like a mattress on the floor, and this guy is like, you know, just an engineer at Lulu, like leading a team and stuff like that, right? So it's being able to understand and appreciate all the nuances of why people are enthusiasts for certain things, whether it's food, whether it's cars, whether it's design, all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. I think I took that guy's advice too literally, but it worked out, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. You know, you've always had an eye for design. That's, you know, that's something that you've always, I think is a strength of yours. Like, what do you think, what attracts you to a car? Like what aesthetically, you know, your car is at a stock height right now. You know, me and Alan are always busting your balls about
Stock
lowering
boy.
it, right? You've seen some lowered FRSs. Like, what do you?
Okay, so absolutely lowering the FRS. Would love to do it. For me, I think I'm super particular, you know, when it comes to paying for work or getting someone to touch something that you value. It's almost like I don't necessarily care about getting the work done, but I care about supporting people who have a passion around what they do. I don't want to just hand off the car to like some random shop that I don't know the dudes or anything, and like, hey, can you just put on these coilovers? It's really weird to admit that, I think, actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was in Toronto, I feel like that car would be lowered, full rims, Like it'd be kitted out because I would just put it in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit hesitant to let my Coco go to somebody else and do the work. I do, in terms of design, what catches my eye? I think clean lines, I always appreciate really clean, simple lines. You know, I think the current trend that I'm noticing, especially with how the car market has been moving, is that companies like are going very aggressive on the look of these cars. Like, I'm gonna buy a Camry. It's a family car, but it's like so aggressive. You know, it's very mean looking. Mm-hmm. There's all these like vents. They're adding like vents that don't do anything. Mm-hmm. I'm actually very against that. Like, I just think of what has worked in the past that is almost timeless, and I think of like the cars that are very simple shape that leave a lot to the imagination, and it leaves like the artist or the tuner to kind of customize the car the way they want to do it. I imagine something like again, you're gonna hate me for this. I think the performance on the new Civics is unreal, but they're so aggressive looking. There's like all these like vortex generators. There's like a spoiler on top of a spoiler. There's like 20 holes on it, and it's like as a guy who is interested in like changing the aesthetics of it, what more can you do to it? You know, it's like at some point it's just gonna be like, this thing's gonna look like a spaceship. You know, it is a nice car, but I like the flexibility of like, you could customize it yourself, and I like the idea of a platform that gives you a very modest shape, and then you can kind of adjust it to the way that you want to. So like the 400Z is one of the newer cars. I'm like, wow, I'm really happy whoever designed that. They've stuck to a very elegant shape. No frills, nothing crazy, but it gives you the flexibility to change it should you want to change it.
Yeah, no, that you bring us some really good points, and that was a very controversial topic with the Civic Type R. Mm-hmm. And that generation. It was just too out there. Like people were like, either you loved it because you're just like, man, I want to drive a spaceship because I love Civics and Type Rs, and you know, like that's just my shit. Yeah. Right. But a lot of people who are a little bit older, like they're like, man, I can't be driving around a spaceship. You know, like it's like I love these cars, but it's just too much. Yeah. And it's modifying that car has been tricky, and I'm glad mine is all black because it really subdues a lot of like the vents and everything, so it makes it look a little bit more subtle. But that's I think when it comes to why we love these cars so much and modifying in this hobby is that you kind of have this blank canvas to make things your own, and having the 400Z or the FRS kind of like not over the top. Like if you buy a Pagani or like a Ferrari, what are you gonna do to it? It's already like it looks like as like a supercar already. What are you gonna? There's not much to do it. But with a Civic, you have an opportunity to really have a very unique build and to make it your own, and it will be a representation of who you are and your individuality.
Yeah, it really just comes down to that, right? Like everything you do, from like the clothing you wear, how you speak, you know, the car you choose, it's like an extension of yourself. You know, like, people can get a vibe of you just by like what is he wearing? You know, what does he drive? You know, what does he do? Mm-hmm. Like it's a like I would never say judge people by the book, but it's like it's an extension of you, and it says to the world, hey, this is what I'm into, you know. I think of like this car right here, I was just looking at it right now, like what a simple shape, you know. It's like when you're a kid, when you're trying to draw a car, you're drawing these primitive shapes. You're drawing like a long rectangle, you're drawing some circles, and like maybe like another rectangle on top, and there's a simplicity and elegance to that. I like the idea that the things you buy you can personalize so that it fits to your persona. Big fan of that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more of a thing now that people can customize everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that you touched upon the, you're so hesitant to give your car to a business, to a place that to work on your car, because you don't, it's you want them.
I want to know the people first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of why we do this as a detailing company.
Mm-hmm.
Like our goal is to create the ultimate destination for people in the GTA who are enthusiasts to take care of their detailing needs. Mm-hmm. And when we create these podcasts, when we create these videos, we want to give them an opportunity to see who I am as a person, who Sherry is, who Nick is, and that when you bring your car here, these are the faces that you can trust are handling your car.
Yeah, and you can always just tell you can always just tell when someone's passionate about something, And then I think being an Asian person, we're always taught that, like, okay, you need to become you need to get accomplishments so then people respect you or something like that, right? I guess that's what my mom kind of ingrained in me. And so I had this misguided belief that if you didn't have a degree, it meant you weren't going to be a coder or like an engineer. But the exact opposite is true. Like, I've met so many passionate people who were like in maybe a finance, but had a passion for like design or engineering. And so they've really excelled over like the traditional individual who was just forced into the profession just to do it for the degree. And these people are the ones that I'm like super excited about, These are the people who are just passionate about the subject. This is like, they feel it's a calling to them. And those are the people, when I'm trying to do business with these people, are the ones that I want to find. Maybe you don't have the most conventional path, the most conventional schooling, or the most conventional path to that career, going through like the academia. But somehow, through your life experiences, you just love that subject, whether it be cars, and you're always tinkering with cars, or you're always tinkering with media, or you're always tinkering with Photoshop. These are the people who that ultimately, when the time gets tough, they're gonna last. They're just gonna keep powering through it because they just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And great work always comes from that.
The cars is definitely what we enjoy here, and that's what I'm trying to build Kodawari into. Is like, I don't know where we're headed, but it's always gonna be around cars and figuring it out.
Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. I'm happy that we were able to make time. Let's close it off with a few questions, a few quick questions, and then we'll have to do another round 2 sometime, right?
For sure.
What advice would you have for your 20-year-old self?
Wow.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
What advice would you give Nick?
Interesting.
Sorry guys, let me turn this thing off. Airplane mode. What do I place?
Get an FRS.
Why get an FRS?
What do you drive, Nick?
No President.
That's a really nice car too.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it a lot, but I get roasted a lot. I've already mentioned it in the podcast. But,
Are you guys roasting him for
yeah,
some car?
bro.
Hey man, you're young and you have a car. That's impressive to me.
Oh, it's not about having a car. It's about not having coilovers on my car.
Oh, don't worry, man. I'm a stock boy too.
It's okay. So lowering the car is like the first thing you do too. When you get a car, just bringing that wheel gap down is just so important, right? It's like you're not gonna wear a shirt with your belly sticking out, right? Like you gotta bring it to the proper height. I don't know. That's probably a weird analogy, but like that you gotta close that gap, right? And
I'm gonna drive it back one day, and I'm gonna have you guys do it.
Before and a big faux pas with modifying cars is upgrading the wheels. So you're putting bigger wheels on the car, more aggressive looking wheels, but not closing the gap. Yeah, it's just straight like.
It's like trying to pull your pants up and you still have that belly gap.
Yeah, it's just like you're there's too much going on there. You're skipping like some core fundamentals. Like there's a process to it. So, yeah, Nick, we in car culture we love roasting each other and stuff like that. So it's all fun, but
it's all in goodwill.
Nick gets roasted on a daily for that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Listen, I support you. You got my vote of confidence.
Have you seen the car?
No, show me it after.
We'll see how much support you have afterwards.
Okay, so I think I figured it out. What would I tell my 28-year-old self? Don't be hard on yourself. It'll work out.
Yeah, that's.
You hear that, Nick?
You know, I've heard that before with people who have like gone a little bit older, and they talk back to themselves back when they were starting the company or when they started that journey, and they're like, you stress about all these things, and in the grand scheme of things, like you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna make mistakes, but having the humility, having the presence of mind to almost laugh it off sometimes, you know, like sometimes when I make mistakes around the team, or like today, you know, like I've been roasting the team that we got to get to work in time, right? And then what do you know? Sherry and I were late this morning, right? And it's easy to be like, fuck, I fucked up, like Jesus Christ. But at the same time, I've come to, you know what? Sometimes you gotta chuckle and you gotta laugh, and you're gonna
Yeah.
You gotta just
roll with the punches.
Yeah, just roll with the punches and just know that everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, and I guess I have one more that just popped in my mind that I feel very passionate about. But life speeds up after 28, 29. It's a really weird effect. I'm not sure. It's almost like time dilation or something. But I noticed in my 20s it was like really slow. My early teens really slow. And in the last few years, it's just flown by. So just enjoy every moment.
Thanks, man. That was I think I've always valued your mindset, and you've been through a lot, and it's really cool to see where you're at now, and hearing you talk about how you see the world and your experiences, I think is very valuable. So thank you for making the time to be on here. And you asked me at the beginning of this podcast, what does success
look for you at the end of this?
Yeah, and I told you was to have a good time. So I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it too.
I always have a great time when I'm here, guys.
All right, so now we're gonna go test drive some cars. Okay, we have an E46 M3 in the back.
Yeah.
And a 997.
Ooh.
So which one do you want to go for a ride first?
Let's try the 997. I've always loved that shape.
It's gonna ruin everything for you, eh?
That's gonna ruin everything.
Yeah. You know that.
It might ruin everything for you too when it's in the ditch.
All that Bitcoin you've been saving up, you might have to cash that baby out. Shit. Yeah, I remember when you were looking at those Caymans. In the group chat, and I was like, "That's it, man." Once you get in one of those cars, and you see the engineering and how those cars drive, you're like,
let's see it.
You understand. Okay.
Well, always a pleasure now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the KodaCast. If anyone wants to follow what you do, I know you have your own YouTube page.
Follow me on my newest random hobby.
Yeah.
So this hobby is about me. It happened during COVID, but it's about me eating out a lot. So then I just started filming it in a very aesthetic way. There's no voice. It's just very clean. I show you the foods of Vancouver. So the YouTube channel is called Take Out Please.
Take Out Please. I guess that's your Instagram. You want to share any of that?
Sure. I mean, if people want to follow me and they're curious, then my Instagram is Young Pappy Shampoo. You'll probably have to type that out because it's so crazy. But yeah, guys, I had so much fun. Sherry, thank you. Nick, thank you. Great question. And now, always a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
it's always
man.
love.